Today we are going to rank some languages. But before we start, I would like to preface this by saying that most of this is just by personal preference. I don't want to offend anyone. Of course, there is no such thing as an inherently bad language. Except for Danish. With that being said, let's get into this. So we're going to rank these languages ranging from the S tier, the best, down to Danish. And first up we have Swedish, which is, of course, my native tongue. I'm actually going to put Swedish in C tier. Of course, for me there's not really anything special about Swedish. Next up we have Danish. Absolutely disgusting. Of course, going into the Danish category. It's like I'm supposed to understand what you're saying, but you just sound like you're so drunk and you like eat half the word and spit out the rest. And if you think that sounds too harsh, I bet you that half the Danish population doesn't even understand Danish.
Gavskud. I didn't understand anything of him, so I just repeated what he said. Good skade.
Next up we have English. Of course, one of the most practical languages in the world, but it's also so common in everyday life that it doesn't really feel special anymore. But I'm going to put it in the B category. I should say though that I do love the British accents. Whether it's Emily or received pronunciation or whatever. And also, girls with English accents. The next language is, of course, Portuguese, which is definitely one of my favorite languages. I just think it's a beautiful language and I pretty much love everything about it. So as the Tugaboo that I am, I'm going to put it into S tier. Next up we have Spanish. I do like Spanish. Spanish is a dope language spoken by millions of people. Though I should say school did kind of destroy Spanish a little bit for me, but I still think I'm going to put it in A tier. I do like Spanish. Then we have Mandarin Chinese. One of the most spoken languages in the world. I would definitely love to learn Chinese at some point. But not gonna lie, I am kind of afraid of tones. I haven't really studied any tonal language so far, and yeah, it kind of freaks me out. But I'm going to put Mandarin in A tier. Hindi is another cool language spoken by a huge amount of people. Would be cool to know, but if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I would have as much use of Hindi as I would from, say, Mandarin. I think I'm gonna put Hindi in the B category. Vietnamese is actually one of my favorite Asian languages. I don't know lots about it. I know it's also a tonal language, but overall I just think it's beautiful. Then we have Arabic. Also, I do think Arabic is a really cool language, and it's actually one of those that I would have quite a lot of use for, because there is quite a lot of Arabic speaking people in Sweden. But of course I know it's supposed to be very difficult. But I'm still going to put it in the A category. Next up we have Norwegian. So this is like slightly happier Swedes. But of course I cannot betray my own country. So you have to go into the E category. Greek. That's kind of a beta language, not gonna lie. It's also kind of alpha. By that reasoning, it's kind of everything. I'm just gonna put it in C. Balanced. French is dope. I love French. French is probably one of the next languages that I would like to study at some point. So I think it deserves the A category. Icelandic. Very interesting language. I don't understand shit you say, but it sounds like I'm talking to one of my forefathers. It's a dope language, and I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Czech is interesting. I'm gonna say, to be honest, Czech is probably my favorite Slavic language. Definitely think it deserves... I'm gonna say A tier. Slovak is pretty much the same thing as Czech, as far as I know, but they don't have the cool R. So so therefore I'm gonna give it B. Romanian. The often forgotten Romance language. I think it sounds dope, but I think I'm going to put it in B. Next up we have Somali. I'm gonna say this, Somali is actually one of my absolute favorite African languages. I think it's a really cool language, and in Sweden I would actually have quite a lot of use for it. I'm going to put it in the S tier. Tagalog is interesting. It's an Asian language, but then you also have like the small mix of Spanish in there, which is interesting. I've also heard it's supposed to be one of the easier Asian languages to learn, relatively. I think I'm going B. German. I've never been a huge fan. I had the option of learning German when I was in school, but I did choose Spanish instead. I think I'm going to put German in D. Russian is interesting. Would definitely be the most practical Slavic language to learn, just because it's the most spoken one. But if I am to learn Slavic language, I would probably learn Czech instead. I think I'm going to put Russian in C. Finnish. That's like our brother from another mother. And I'm gonna put you in S. Fun fact, I'm actually half Finnish. I don't know pretty much any Finnish. Well, I do know the most important stuff, like Ei sä peite and Minua olen joulupukki, which means do not cover and I am Santa Claus. Next up we have Afrikaans. To be honest, I can't really rank this one. I don't know too much about it. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna lump it in with German. Dutch, on the other hand, I actually really do like Dutch. I'm gonna say that Dutch is like the slightly cooler German. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Then we have Japanese, which is actually the first language that I ever tried to learn on my own. And to be honest, I still think it's one of the cooler languages, so it's gonna go into S tier. Swahili is dope. I'm pretty sure it's the most spoken African language. But like I said, Somali is still my favorite African language, but I think I'm gonna put Hakuna Matata in B tier. Estonian is interesting. It's very similar to Finnish, but you're kind of like our brother from another mother who lives far away enough that it's a bit of a hassle to get to you, so I'm gonna put you in C. Thai is a dope language. I would definitely like to learn Thai at some point. I think it's like the Norwegians of Southeast Asia. They just sound kinda happy. I'm gonna go A tier. Polish, also very interesting Slavic language. Would probably have more use for Polish than Russian, at least in Sweden. But I don't think it's as cool as Czech, so I'm going to put it in B. Zulu is interesting. So this is one of the click languages from Africa. I know there's more of them, but to be honest, I don't know very much about them. Zulu is interesting. I can barely speak when I speak, and if you can click when you speak, that's kind of dope. And for that, you deserve S tier. Korean is cool, kind of like the same vibe as Japanese. I don't know, I think I'm gonna put you in A tier. And then we have Italian. Also, fascinating language. It's like half spoken, half a sign language. I think Italian is going to end up in the B tier. Yeah, that's it. And that's also the last language that I'm going to rank today. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.